Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is No Game, No Life, Episode 7, Sacrifice. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of exactly what happens within this episode. The episode begins with Jabril showing Stephanie a kitchen that has milk, sugar, and some of the ingredients that had been missing before. That she basically hints that Sora and Shiro want Stephanie to cook for them. We then have Stephanie cooking some donuts for them, and we cut over to where Kurumi and Fiel are in the Elven territory, and Kurumi has decided that Sora and Shiro have to be working for another race, and she thinks that has to be the Werebeasts because they find out that they've been researching the Eastern Federation, which is the Werebeast territory, and that they now have a Flugel, which is Jabril. We then return to Stephanie delivering the donuts while Sora and Shiro ask Jabril about the Eastern Federation and what she knows, and she reveals that she had played a game against the Werebeasts before. However, when she lost, they did make it part of the commandments that she would lose all memories of the game, so she can't help them there. But she does reveal that the elves had challenged them 4 times in the past and lost, and that the Amanity, Stephanie's grandfather, had challenged them 8 times and lost. And of course, Sora then insults Stephanie's grandfather for being a fool for giving away so much land. Jabril even teleports them up into the sky to show basically all of the Elkian land that was lost by the former king in these challenges. And this, of course, makes Stephanie incredibly upset, so she runs off. She then goes to her room where she flashes back to her younger years, where her grandfather gave her a key to protect, telling her to give it to the person she truly feels is going to be capable of saving humanity. And she says that that's never going to be Sora because he's insulted her grandfather. Jabril then pops in and tells her to go back to the library where Sora and Shiro are, and Stephanie does so. When she arrives, we see Sora basically going through all the records he has access to try to find some justification for why the king would have challenged 8 times and lost. He discovers that in each of the challenges, the king only gave away land that Amanity's current technology couldn't use until the very last time, the 8th time, when he gave away the palace, like the former palace. But he still can't really understand why he did it, though he suspects potentially, unlike the other races, in order to keep luring in the weakest race, the Werebeasts let him keep his memories, and that's why he challenged 8 times, hoping that he might be able to win. His defense of her grandfather then convinces Stephanie. Well, no, first, the defense of the grandfather, and then Sora basically insults humanity, saying that, worthless, weak, etc. is the norm, but that every so often there's a special one, using Shiro as the example, that comes along and is able to do what no other humans could do. He then flashes back to first meeting Shiro when she was 3 years old and he was older, and when she heard his name, she then made a comment on his emptiness, showing that he was only putting on an act around other people, and this, of course, made him realize that she was the real deal. And that started their codependent relationship, which has evolved to the point where it's at now. And then he basically says he believes in the potential of humanity, if not believing in humanity itself. This, of course, then leads to Stephanie reconsidering. She gives him the key. They go to the king's old room, where in a previous episode, Sora and Shiro moved into the basement to escape the sunlight and sleep on straw, and their excuse for that was that the bed was tilted in the king's chambers, making it difficult to sleep there. But it turns out the reason the bed was tilted was because it led to a bunch of little mechanisms that then revealed a hidden room. And now that they have the key, they open the door to the hidden room, and within the hidden room are the records of the games that the king played against the werebeasts. And it's revealed that because he was seen as weaker, instead of losing his memories of the games, he instead was basically agreed not to tell anyone while he was alive, but that of course doesn't count after he was dead, so he left records of all of the games that he played against the werebeasts so that humanity's greatest gambler might be able to actually save them and challenge the werebeasts and actually win the game this time. And at the very end of the episode, he gives Stephanie the logbook and tells her that her grandfather was a great man, which causes her to fall to her knees and cry a lot. Now that we've been reminded about what happened, it's time to rank the episode. As always, we rank on a mostly objective ranking list and then also the personal ranking list. All right, so we're going to start with our mostly objective rank values, and we'll start with our positives. So first positive is the supporting character development, which is Stephanie's flashbacks to when her grandfather gave her the key and the revelation that she's had a key hidden in a ribbon on her hair accessory this entire time, which is to that secret room that her grandfather let her be the judge of the character of the new king in order to determine if she would give that key to them, and a development that she's revealed the key and does end up giving it to Sora. We then also have our main character development, which is worth 4 points, which is the flashback to Sora and Shiro's first meeting, and also the flashback to where they found the hidden room, which they walk Jabril and Stephanie through once they have the key in order to find the logs. Which brings us to the one negative on this episode, which is just worth -1 point, was that it was a setup or recap episode. In this case, it was a setup episode. The entire episode was basically research and trying to find more resources towards researching the werebeasts. There wasn't really, apart from that, any other developments in the plot. It was just setting up the fact that now they have the information that they need to be able to challenge the werebeasts. And that then brings this episode objectively to a 5 out of 10. And that brings us to our series ranking so far in our mostly objective ranking. And in first place, we had Beginner, Grandmaster, Challenger, Interesting, Expert. This episode came in 6th with Sacrifice, and then last place so far is Weak Square. So that brings us to our series ranking so far for the personal ranking. And on the personal side, I actually liked this episode. Setup episodes usually they don't have any action. So they can be boring. However, in this episode, I did like that we're learning more about Jabril's past. We're learning about Sora and Shira's past. We learn about the key in the hidden room, how the king wasn't actually a fool. We get a little bit of an insight into what his strategy was. We check in with Kurumi and Fiel again, where we see their perspective inside of things, with them thinking that Sora and Shiro are werebeasts. So while it is a setup episode, it's touching base on pretty much all of the characters we've met so far, and also bringing into play like the elements that we're going to be needing. We also have like Jabril using the teleportation magic, which looked cool, like was visually interesting. The whole issue with Steph growing to, she goes back and forth on trusting Sora and Shiro, particularly Sora. There's even a part where Jabril kind of points out that she was ordered by the commandments to fall in love, not stay in love. And so that then implies that the feelings may be real, which actually I'd forgotten about that. And it actually makes me feel a bit better about the whole making someone fall in love with you using the commandments, because Jabril had a point there. Yes, she was ordered to fall in love, but if there wasn't a reason to stay in love, she wasn't commanded to stay in love with Sora. So it could have been a flash in the pan moment, but because it has lasted, potentially her feelings would have developed in that direction anyway, which tends to be the case with most anime. If you have a main character that is male, most of the female characters are going to end up being incredibly fond of them. That's just how the formula for anime tends to work. But overall, I felt that even though it was a setup episode, there wasn't a lot of action and it was a lot of exposition and talking, we did learn valuable information and new information, and this did make it a positive experience to watch the episode, which is why I gave the episode a 5 out of 10 ranking as well, just like the objective turned out to be. And that brings our list so far to, in first place, interesting, grandmaster, beginner, expert. This episode's sacrifice comes in fifth place, and then challenger in sixth, and weak square in seventh. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked No Game No Life, episode 7, Sacrifice. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.